The Grateful Podcast with Jack Wagoner presents. Subscribe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Grateful Podcast. Today I'm super stoked to be here with Harrison Goodell, an awesome singer-songwriter, self-taught. He's actually a neighbor of mine, but we haven't really connected until pretty recently, and he's also just a super cool guy, so I'm stoked to have him on the podcast. I think you'll learn a lot. What's up?
I'm glad to be on, man. I hope people learn a lot from me. I don't know. I don't think of myself as a generally wise person, but I'm hoping I can change that. Maybe this will change that.
That's a good attitude to have, I guess, like a humble.
Right.
Well, I don't know. I'd say that's pretty different from my attitude.
You think you're a pretty wise guy?
I don't know. I walk around and sometimes I'm like, damn, I'm the shit. Like,
It's good to have confidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good middle ground, you know?
Yeah, I think so. So let's kind of start there. Like, you are someone. In my favorite song of yours, it's titled "The View." You say, "If you've got a dream, you go." And so, obviously, you have a little bit of confidence. You're doing something that not many people would do, right? You're doing something. You're taking a different path, so you got to have a little bit of confidence.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think confidence is definitely required in what I'm doing in any kind of path where you're straying off from like the norms. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think of myself as a very confident person, like internally, but from the people I've talked to, the people who've seen me perform, have said that I exude confidence on stage and that I have good stage presence. And I'm like, wow, I'm glad the show that I'm putting on is working. You're not seeing behind the facade, but I don't know. You're right. It's definitely necessary, and I think I have the confidence because of how I grew up and the supportive nature of my family. And I realize that not everyone has that. And when I say you've got a dream, you go, I feel like that comes from a place of like, I don't know. I look at that line and I'm like, I know that not everyone has the freedom that I do to be as ambitious as I am.
I feel that as well. It's like, I think I'm pretty lucky to be able to pursue my passion because I don't have to worry about just living, just surviving on a daily basis. When you're lucky enough and you're fortunate enough to grow up in a household where you will have the ability to pursue your passion.
Right. I mean, if you're always thinking about like where your next meal's coming from, you don't have that free time to be necessarily exploring what fills you with joy, you know? So
right.
I think everyone can get there, but I realize that my path has been easier than others would be.
Yeah, but you do think everyone can get there. You think?
I like to believe that. I mean, a lot of people say like, "Oh, well, you were born with that gift," and I hate that mentality because if you go back on my camera roll and you scroll back to like 20, I don't know, 14, me singing in my bedroom, it was not great. But I think through a lot of dedication and practice, and I took voice lessons, it kind of got me where I am now. And I didn't come out of the womb singing and writing songs.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think that whole thing of nature versus nurture is a conversation I like to talk about because
sure.
I think a lot of people that have gotten somewhere are more of the mentality that I worked to get here, but people that wish they were somewhere like to say, oh, you're born with that gift. And so when someone will say, oh, he's just naturally talented, that somewhat discredits the work that you've put in.
100%. And I don't necessarily turn that idea away because I'm worried about being discredited, more because I'm worried about other people being discouraged by that message, you know?
I like that.
I don't know. I don't know what you believe, what your religious views are, but my current view right now is that we only have this one life, and I'd rather go and, I guess, fail at something that I really want to do than succeed at something that feels empty.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm trying to preach with all this.
All right. Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
He gave me the script before. I'm just.
You're following the script.
I'm just playing.
We got something behind my head. You're just reading.
That'd be helpful.
That would suck. But yeah, 100%, dude. when you're sitting, something I come back to a lot is like when I'm sitting on my deathbed or when I'm about to die.
Probably laying down, right?
Hopefully.
All right.
I hope. Hopefully, it just doesn't come. I mean, it could just come at any time. But like, I want those last moments to be filled with, like, damn, I lived a life of joy. I went after what I loved and not like I lived someone else's life. I guess like I lived a life that wasn't what I wanted. Like, and so what you say doing that, like just going after your dream and going after your passion, you'll be able to be happy with yourself even if it does fail.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you had said you want to do your passion even if you fail, right? You'd rather right, like you'd rather fail at something you get joy from than succeed at something that you derive no joy from. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. 100%. I mean, I just don't want to ever leave that on the table and not know what it could have been, you know? So I'm glad I'm here. But a lot of people are uncomfortable with the idea of pursuing music when I tell them. Typically it comes from the older generations, right? I hear a lot of like, there's no money in music, or dreams don't pay the bills, all that kind of stuff. And I think it comes from a good place, you know? Those people grew up where stability kind of meant success, right?
Yeah.
But I think the tides have changed a little bit, and we're not. We don't necessarily need to be stuck in an office and have the 401k to be successful. Obviously, stability is nice, and it feels safe. But I think I value creativity and adaptability like just as much.
Yeah. I think that. Where do you think that comes from? That. Your difference in opinion, your difference in view, where you value your dream over that stability.
I think it's a combination of being like very fortunate, like I was saying, to grow up in a stable household.
Yeah.
And I think like it allows for that space to explore those passions, but also a lot of the content I consumed at like 13 and 14. I was watching Yes Theory on YouTube. I don't know if
I love those guys,
but there was a lot of role models in my life who were just like telling me to chase my dreams, and I got this like huge looming fear of being 40 or 50 and being in an office and not being happy. If you work an office job, there's no problem with that. But for me, that is not fulfilling. And for me, I want to be doing something I love while I'm making money. I understand the idea of making money and then go do the fun thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to be going back and forth. I'd rather just be enjoying everything.
The fear of not having chase your dream is huge, but I think for a lot of people, the fear of actually like leaving stability is just as big.
Oh yeah.
And how is that for you? Like navigate, and you still have that fear. You still are you ever afraid?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, especially when I hear those things from the older generations, I wonder, am I just being naive, thinking I can make this work? But at the point I'm in right now, even though I'm taking a different path, I'm still in a very stable environment. I'm living with my parents. It hasn't been such a huge risk because I know I have time to figure this out and build a good like financial model of my music business and get to a point where I can support myself. So even though it does feel like a risk, and it is like, how am I going to appear to people as I'm like working through this? You know, I feel like right now a lot of the work is behind the scenes, and I really just want to show people like all the stuff I'm doing, but it's a marathon, I guess, pursuing music. So I'm learning that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I haven't felt that risk as much as people might think. Although there are some nights where I'm like, man, maybe I should have gone to college. But that's only because like it was so ingrained in my head and all of our heads. Like growing up, school guidance counselor, they've been better about it now. But like, I don't know. I think it's important that we tell the youth that there are options. Like, you don't have to.
There's no one set path for everybody.
Right. And kind of, I do kind of wish that there was like a set path for music, because it's pretty overwhelming. It's not like I'm going to be a doctor and I'm going to go to college and I'm going to go to med school and then do residency. It's just like, I see where I want to be and I'm just trying to figure out the best path to it.
It's like you have you right now. You have your end goal, and you just have to create the difference.
Right. I got to figure it out. Like, I don't.
But that's unknown.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I guess I try to talk to a lot of people who are like 5 years ahead of where I am now, and kind of see what they're doing, and then if it's something that sounds appealing to me, I start to incorporate whatever they're doing. Yeah. But that's a huge thing. If you're looking to go in a different path, I think finding some inspirations, people who are doing what you want to do, and then just trying to connect with them and talk to them is really essential.
Yeah. But sometimes, so I have a question. So a lot of times, like when you do something different, as you talked about, you have a lot of sources of input on your life. How do you kind of weed through that? Because I know you seek out certain mentors, certain people like ahead. Are there certain criteria where you're like, yeah, what they're saying is just like, I'm not listening to that, or certain criteria where you're like, that's it, like I need to listen to that person.
Right. Like, why do I listen to the mentor versus like the older family friend telling me to quit music?
You're right. Like, what makes someone credible in your mind?
I don't know. I guess it's a little bit of personal bias. I guess I kind of like, I search for the things that I want to hear, like to be the breadcrumb to make me keep going. But I don't know. Usually, people that I try to talk to are people that I think are doing something that's really cool, and that I like music that I like to listen to, and they're playing venues that I really want to play. So it's usually, that's kind of how I determine who I talk to, is basically like who's doing what I want to be doing.
I have this phrase where I'm like, I'll listen to everyone's advice, but I'm only gonna incorporate it if it's someone, if I want to be in their position. So I have someone in my life that I'm like, yeah, I really, really respect that person. I want to be like them. Then I'll listen to that advice. But if someone's giving me advice like that old family friend where you're like, yo, listen, I respect you as a person, but that's not what I'm trying to do. Then I feel like that kind of discredits it. Yeah,
and it kind of helps. Like, if I get too bogged down by what they're saying, I like remember, like, I think about them and I'm like, I don't really know if I want to be in your position.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. It's just, I don't know, people are different and different things fulfill you. So
right. Yeah. All right. So I kind of want to switch back to where we started, which is on confidence.
Okay.
You mentioned that people say you exude confidence on stage. When I saw you play, I know it wasn't like a crazy venue. It was like a small spot. Yeah, so it's probably easy. Is that easier for you to exhibit confidence?
Honestly, bigger is easier. Usually bigger and like brighter lights in your face so you can't see people. Okay. I don't know. But when there's less people, I'm like more thinking about like what every person is thinking. Like,
okay.
When it's a huge crowd, it's just kind of just like one big thing. One thing.
Interesting.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
it like drowns out. You can't get as like nitpicky with what you're thinking about.
Right.
Yeah. I was just blown away though how you were talking to Nathan and I, and like the guy's just like, yo, Harrison, you want to sing? And you're like, yeah, sure. You hop up on there and just you start singing immediately. You were in conversation with me 30 seconds beforehand. That blew me away.
That was like when I first started. Is what you're talking about?
Yeah,
right.
I was like, all right, this dude is just like on no nerves, just going up there and he just goes.
I don't know. I guess the nerves don't really. I don't know. Even though I said smaller is generally harder, I think for that situation, I just didn't think it was a super high stakes thing. I was just I was going up there and I was going to go enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I think usually the higher pressure shows are like I got to open for a band that I really like over the summer at Prescott Park in Portsmouth, and the pressure was crazy then because I was like, I want to set a good impression of them. And I'm playing for, I don't know, 1,000 people maybe were there. And I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm contradicting myself. Maybe more people is scarier. But I guess like for that show, I had always wanted to play that venue. and do the opening gig, and I got it, and I'm like, I can't mess this up now.
Yeah. Do you have fun while you do it though?
Yeah, so usually like 2 hours or 3 hours leading up to it, I'm like freaking out. I'm like, am I getting sick? And I'm like, I think there's some scientific thing where like your vocal cords like get dry before when you get nervous, something like that.
Really?
So I start to convince myself that I'm sick and I'm gonna screw it up. But then the second I walk out there and start playing and get through the first verse of the first song, it's like I'm the most present and the most like joyful that I ever am. So I just have to get over that hump of like beforehand, and maybe I need to develop some sort of rituals so I can get myself through those times, because I'm planning to have a lifetime of those.
Right.
But
maybe it comes through experience.
if I'm at a point where I'm not nervous anymore, I know that like I should stop.
Yeah.
And he like seeks out the nerves, you know. And there's a good quote by lead singer of U2, and he said that your nerves, being nervous is like your body preparing you to do something great. And I think it's a great quote. And when I'm nervous, I kind of think about that, and it brings me peace a little bit. It kind of like redirects the energy of I'm gonna mess up to like I'm about to do something great.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's
good.
sweet. It's like, so have you ever heard of flow state? We might have talked about it.
I've heard of flow state, but I don't know what it is. Like I've heard it.
So flow state is basically defined as like peak human performance. It's when it's a lot of what you just talked about, where you're in like, it's the most presence and the most joy you can possibly feel. And there's some people out there that theorize flow state is the reason for human existence, or like but what you kind of talked about really sounded like it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Now that I know the definition, I definitely think that's what it is. That's what it feels like, what it is.
Yeah. But one of the criteria for it is like you first have to struggle. So, and the fact that you go through that like build up to it and then you get into it, really, I think that's cool to. Like,
interesting. Cool. I'm gonna have to look into that more, but that sounds pretty spot on for what I feel. I think if you're ever looking for what your passion is or what brings you the most joy, is just to like find the activity that like makes time not exist, right? Like you start doing it, and then you all of a sudden like when I'm in here recording music, I'll like walk outside, I'll come in here at like 10 o'clock, and then if like an hour went by and I'll open the door and it'll be dark out. So you just gotta find something where like time gets sucked away. And that's kind of how I know what makes me joy.
That's an awesome definition for it.
Yeah, I gotta call it something cool like flow state.
It's a pretty gnarly name.
I thought it was like an app at first, like Headspace.
Yeah, sounds like it. It'd be a good. Anyone watching, that's a good app to start.
We are sponsored by Flow State.
Flow State, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I kind of get that feeling in conversation. Like when I was in France, I would get that feeling where like I would just forget time if I was speaking in French, because it was that difficulty level. And one criteria for it is you have to be performing at 102% of your maximum difficulty. So you reach it when you're like getting 2% better, something like that. And so in something where you can constantly progress, it's easier to reach it. But it also pushes you to constantly progress. It's kind of like cyclical, but it's really cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I feel like it usually works out, even if the live performance isn't as polished as the rehearsal was the day before. It's like the energy is so much better. It's through the roof, and it kind of covers all the little flaws that I might be making because I'm in the moment and I'm getting too into it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah. Do
you feel that way with anything else in life? Do you feel like you get in that present state?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Like, I don't know, sometimes I'm like backup plan. What's my backup plan? And I don't feel like I get that from much else. I mean, I think human connection is huge for me too, like what you were talking about. And I think music is kind of my way to do that. And even just like my talking between songs. And at some of the bigger gigs, just like being able to talk to like, I don't know, I don't want to say fans, but afterwards, and them telling me how certain songs connect them that really fulfills me a lot. But anything completely outside of music, I don't know.
Huh.
I like to hike, but I don't know if it doesn't feel the same.
Hiking hurts.
Yeah, right.
But do you think that's why you chose it? Do you remember, like, do you think that your feeling of flow that you get within like music is the reason that you pursue it?
I think the reason I started was, well, first of all, my grandmother she was a dancer, and I think on both sides of my family, both my sets of my grandparents are pretty artistic and musical.
Yeah.
And when I always had this energy running around the house when I was younger, just singing songs. I was trying to put on a performance, and my parents were like, "You have to channel this." So they put me in the theater camp, and I did that for a while until I kind of got bullied out of it. But maybe it was for the best for me, because I feel like finding music felt a lot more fulfilling. But what really was the turning point was going to see one of my first concerts. It was a guy named Matt Carney. I saw him at the Portsmouth Music Hall, and he played just him and his guitar, and I guess a guy doing percussion. That might have been it. And I just remember looking around and seeing how happy the music was making everybody, and how happy it was making me. It was like giving me goosebumps. I was like 12, and I was like, "What is this feeling?" And I left there, and I was telling my parents, I was like, "I want to do that. I want to make people feel the way I felt just being there." So I guess it wasn't like an experience of flow state that drew me into it, but it was, I guess, seeing someone else go through that and being on the receiving end of it, which made me like, I want to recreate that.
Right. You want to make people feel that there's joy from
the
music. So I feel like I'm just making this all about flow state now, but there's also something called group flow, which people get into in like concert settings, where like it's almost a shared flow state. If there's like I don't know too much about it, so I'm not gonna pretend like I do. But I just know,
cool,
but I just know that like in a setting like a concert, there's a way to like, and there is something like group flow, and that's probably what was felt, and that's why things like that can be so powerful.
Right.
Like the chills you feel, like the energy around that. It's so amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing that's really cool about music is that it can resonate with people from so many different backgrounds, who have so many different stories. And I don't know, it's just there's not much else like it. I guess it's just kind of lots of art in general do the same thing, but I don't know. I can't imagine a world without art.
Dude, it'd suck.
It would suck.
It'd be so bland.
But I feel like there's art everywhere. There's art like in nature, and I feel like it's impossible.
Yeah, I think it is impossible. I think art is like a core pillar of life.
Yeah. Just humans, right? It's just ingrained in us. No other animals are like trying to like beatbox or anything. Not that I know of. I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of ape doing something like that, but
probably. We read a book back in like elementary school where there was an ape that drew, I think.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
Ivan? No.
Ivan, yeah.
Oh, something Ivan.
Ivan, the one and only Ivan.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Teamwork right there.
He inspired me.
Yeah?
No.
That'd
be crazy.
Yeah. I feel like I'm surrounded by a lot of people that like make art in different ways.
Oh, right.
Like
because your dad is
an artist.
Super cool artist. Yeah.
And so it's really been a cool experience to see the different like forms of human expression.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that people deal with the way they process the world.
Yeah. Did you inherit any kind of like artistic, I don't know, desire to do anything? I mean, this is artistic podcasting.
A little bit, yeah. From what I know right now, I'm a horrible singer. My voice, like, if I'm at a concert or something and I'm trying to sing along, I get glares from people.
Right. I like that you said right now.
Yeah.
Leaving it open.
It could get better.
Right.
You never know. Also not a great, like, on paper artist. But what I am really good with is, like, words. So I'm a really good writer.
Yeah.
That's art in a way.
Oh, of course. That's huge. I mean, that's what half of music is, or at least songwriting. Yeah.
Yeah.
just pairing the two together.
So you write all your songs?
Yeah, some of all the songs that are out right now are completely written by me. Recently, I've gone to Nashville and started writing with co-writers who are like some of the top writers in the industry, and I'm super grateful to have worked with them. And it's like a kind of a different experience writing with other people.
Does it take away from like the genuine processes like in your head?
Right. I think as long as the people I worked with were very strict about like we want this to be your story in your song. So like I always kind of had the final say, but they might have helped me reframe something that I was trying to say to sound a different way. And as long as that I felt like that resonated with me, it wasn't really limiting anything. So it was good. And it's helpful to have someone to kind of have a conversation with while you're writing a song.
Huge.
One of the guys I wrote with named Steve Rush, he's worked with like Logic, so only naturally would he work with me next.
Yeah, like you and Logic, same genre.
We're pretty close. Anyway, I went in there and with my guitar, I'd never met him before, and it was in his home. And he told me to put the guitar down, and we just sat down, and we just started having a conversation, and it turned from small talk to like me pouring my heart out to this man about how like long distance relationships scare me and how really it's just my insecurities. And I see him like writing these like notes down. I'm like, are we writing a song right now? And he's like, oh yeah, I think I got a chorus worked out, or I want to include this. And I'm like, dude, okay. I mean, thanks for the warning, but it was great. It was so, because it was derived completely from our conversation, it was so natural.
Right.
And I don't know, I haven't put the song out yet. I'm hoping to.
I heard it though.
Yeah, I think you did hear it.
It was
Worth a
really
try.
I loved it.
So super cool.
That's awesome. I've been working with people like that. Just it probably feels so good. It probably feels like your goals are more tangible.
Oh yeah.
Start talking to people like that.
Right. I mean, I haven't co-written with many people who aren't like seasoned veterans, so I don't really know what that could be like. All I've had is pretty positive experiences with it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I think what I've learned is like you find people that you work better with and some you don't work as well with, and that's it's kind of something that's intangible, but it's just something in the energy in the room. Like if we're just bouncing things off each other, it's natural, or if it's just like we're just sitting there as force, and I don't know, which I felt sometimes some people, but I don't know why certain people.
Just a vibe, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's if you're kind of like similar people, it kind of helps. But it's good practice either way to work with all different people.
Yeah,
I don't know, being open to different ideas.
I've learned that whenever you have like something like in person and real time, like communication around some creative endeavor, it really just helps.
Oh yeah.
Like keep the creative process going.
Right.
And for me in my writing, like even when I don't have anyone to do that with, I've learned to use resources like AI, like ChatGPT to just do that. I think that's one of the most helpful things about it.
Yeah. How do you use it? Do you like with your writing?
It depends on what type of like content I'm writing or genre or whatever. If it's like, let's say it's an essay for like let's say it's a college essay, I'll say like pretend you're an admissions officer at blah 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 college and list the pros and cons of this essay.
That's great. Sure.
And so that's kind of like as if I was actually talking to an admissions officer, and that helps give me the real life feedback. But if I'm doing something for a video script, or I do podcasts where I'm not interviewing someone sometimes, and I'm just like talking myself, and I want to go over the script and see how it is. I'm like, yo, what do you think of this? What do you think of this idea in it? This content idea, would that go well? Does it catch like an empathy point? Just that real life feedback, like that real time feedback loop, it really helps with ideas.
Especially the robot, they kind of know everything, sort of. I mean, sort of.
Kind of.
I think when it comes to art, it gets. I don't know. I don't think AI has been able to recreate the creativity of the human conscious yet, which I think is good and saving my job right now. But I definitely use AI a lot with music. Not really. I'm not like having it write songs for me, but if I want to send a booking email to a restaurant and I want it to kind of like catch their attention, I'll have it write me something brief. Or I'm kind of getting it set up just temporarily with like a private event and wedding side of my music. So I got on all these wedding websites called The Knot and Wedding Wire, and I had it write me a description using like keywords that people like. If you search, it'll like pop up quicker, I guess. I don't know. But it's definitely been helpful for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't scare me as much as other people say AI scares them.
Yeah.
The point is that now, at least.
I feel like I just have to not think deeply about it. And
just sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing we've talked a lot, like in this conversation, about like kind of your goals and your dreams for the future, but we haven't necessarily like nailed down a specific goal. Like, do you have any, when you think about where you want to go, do you have anything specific, anything you're really reaching towards?
Yeah, I haven't gotten super in detail with myself about like a 5-year to 10-year plan or something like that. I mean, it's very helpful, and I think like it's helpful so you know like when you've hit the point of success, or else you're gonna like you're gonna climb the mountain and you're gonna see another mountaintop and you're gonna keep climbing, and it's just like it turns into like a workaholic nature. But I think the thing that keeps coming back to me, like where do I want to be, is I want to be able to play the show at anywhere in the country. Oh, it'd be great to get overseas, but to an audience of like 400 people.
Yeah,
that would be great. I don't need to be filling out stadiums. That would be awesome, but like it would be great to just have kind of a mid-level career. That way I can still go to the grocery store and not have someone stalking behind me.
Interesting.
But I don't even know. I can't even imagine myself getting to that point. But I'm just holding out hope.
Yeah.
And the good thing about now is, in how the music industry is that you don't need to be like Logic or Beyonce to like make a career and make good money from music. You can, because of social media now, you can be like a middle class musician and buy a house, and
it's really cool.
Yeah, and it's all really because of social media and all the modern technical advances, I guess.
Right. Like
how fast information travels.
Like you don't have to be like an absolute superstar to make enough money.
I mean, I'd love to be an absolute superstar.
Yeah.
But I have peace knowing that, like, if I don't get there, I'm still gonna be okay. There's ways to make money.
So you would want, like, the way you phrased your previous thing where you talked about going to the grocery store, I like got the sense that you wouldn't want to like
I know.
feel like that.
I don't know. I go back and forth. Like, that would be a little annoying, but also like it'd be awesome.
It'd be awesome. I got you on that.
But I hear a lot of people who are there and they're like, I thought this would be awesome, and now it's like, I don't know. I just want my alone time, and I want to feel like a normal person.
Yeah.
And like, I could imagine how lonely that could feel. But right now, it's probably just me being naive. It's like I'd love to be recognized at the mall or something. I mean, I've only been recognized like in Dover or maybe like Portsmouth, but
that's still pretty cool.
It feels great, you know. Like for a period in the summer, at kind of after my American Idol thing and that article was out, like I went down to the ice cream place 2 separate times and got recognized by someone, and then I've gotten like pictures of people. I'm like, this is so cool.
Picture, that's real.
But I don't know. I could imagine how that could be too much if you just can't go anywhere.
Right. But another thing about that is like, do you know who Alex Ramosi is?
No, I don't.
He's like he's a genius in the business space online.
Okay.
And one thing he talks about a lot is you can't think about like the problems of like being scaled before you scale. So a lot of people will be like, he used to be a gym owner, and he said a lot of people came into the gym and they're like, yeah, but I don't want to be as big as you, so I don't want to work out. And he's like, yo, like that's
ridiculous.
You're not going to be able to do that in 10 years. So like work out and then worry about that later.
Yeah,
and so
at that point.
Right. So I bet there are some people out there that are like, that would love to try to be a musician, but they're like, oh, I just don't want to be like
Yeah, and
recognized.
I have some friends who are like that, and I really truly understand how they feel, but yeah, like you said, like you don't need to think about that yet, right?
Right.
Especially with how it is now, because you don't have to get there to be successful.
Right. Mm, like even if you do get there, it's a long time away.
Right.
And you'll probably have a choice that will actually determine that later on.
Right, and if that does happen to me, if I all of a sudden have a really big year and I'm selling out stadiums, then I'll do that for like 2 years, and then I'll probably just go quiet. I don't know. I mean, I'll just keep making music, and I don't know if I could just go quiet, but I don't know.
I think it would happen eventually, though. Like think about, and that's not a diss at you in any way, but I think about Noah Khan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I bet that dude peaked. I bet this year was his peak.
I know. I think he's worried about that himself. I've listened to him on a podcast, and he's like, "How do I follow up after that?"
Right.
But he's also like, I have this peace knowing that like I got the song that got me on SNL, and I got the song that nominated me for a Grammy, and now I can kind of be more experimental with my music, because I've reached all the milestones that I wanted to reach.
Yeah.
Which is great, and I think. Being an artist, I think you just need to remember like what fulfills you, and don't let like the fame be what drives you. Make it always be the art,
That's huge.
And sometimes you need to, even though I'm not famous, anyone who's listening knows that. But I don't know. It's easy to get a big ego when people are telling you how great you are, how great your songs are, and I don't know. It gets to a point where I don't even like acknowledge, like if someone compliments me, that's something I've been confident on a lot. I don't even like acknowledge it as truth because I've heard it so many times. I'm like, they're just saying that because you say.
Numb fact.
I've become numb to it, which I don't like that, because I want to be able to. I don't know, when I give compliments, I want people to be able to receive them fully. So I want to find that kind of gratefulness again, because I feel like I've lost that in my ego, I guess, but not, I don't know, not intentionally, not like I don't know.
With success comes praise, which numbs what people are praising, so you feel less gratitude.
Right. And it's nothing against the person. I'm like still very grateful that they took the time out to like message me on Instagram or something like that. But I don't know. It's just a weird feeling.
Describe the feeling.
That's
hard.
hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like it takes this like a special message to like really like take me off my feet and be like, wow, they really meant that, because I guess I don't know. I guess a good example of this is like when you're walking downtown or something, you pass someone and like, hey, how you doing, right? They're not really asking you like how you're doing, right? I mean, I think at one point that term was meant to really ask how someone was doing, right? But now it's just turned into like a thing you do.
Yeah.
So when I hear from them, even though it's genuine, it feels like to me it's just a thing you say, to someone who's playing music on stage. But the moments when people come up to me, like this happened a couple times, and they cry or something like that. That's like 10 times an applause or 10 times any compliment. And I know it's something you can't control. I don't want to encourage people to come up to me crying to just to try and make me happy. But I don't know. That's something I don't see as often. So it like really like, wow, it must have really meant a lot to them.
Yeah.
So I don't want to lose that gratefulness. So I don't know if I explained it well.
No, I think I get it a lot. You think you can? Do you ever want to work on that? On like feeling that gratitude?
Yeah, I think I should. I definitely want to, because I know there's a lot of people in the industry who are pretty self-centered and kind of get turned into assholes, and I don't ever want to be like that. And I want people to know, my future fans to know that when they tell me something, that it really means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And I guess it probably comes from like in the moment people are telling me that, it's usually right after a show, and I'm usually thinking about 10 other things when someone says something, and I always just like by default respond like, wow, that means a lot to me. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. And I guess maybe I'm just not taking it in how I should. It's not that like I took it in and I'm not grateful. It's more that I'm not like fully in the moment listening to them and like absorbing what they said to me. I think that frames it better because I think I was. It sounded like I was saying that I don't care what people say. I don't care if you compliment me. It's more that I'm just not really present enough to absorb it.
Right. Like after a show, you just like that took a lot of work and
right. The endorphins are flowing.
Right. Yeah. You're as you said, your mind's like thinking about 10 other things, so it must be hard to concentrate on what this one person has to say.
Yeah, and hopefully, maybe through repetition, I'll be able to like it won't feel as much of a high after. I won't feel as much of a high afterwards, so I'll be able to like be more present. But like I know when I've talked to like artists after the show, or even before, like there's I don't know if you're familiar. There's a guy named Alan Stone who's like a soul and funk artist, and he's played at Prescott Park where I opened. He's played there a few different years. And the past 2 years I've went early and saw him do the sound check and then talked to him afterwards, and he's always been super like present and thorough and like made me really feel like I was just a friend of his, and I want to be able to carry that into my career. That makes sense. Just
my question to you though is like, well, I feel like you do the same thing, and I wonder if Alan feels the same way you do.
Right.
And it feels like an act to him as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's interesting to think about.
Because you're pretty good at, like, as you said, your default response to something not touching you that much is thanks, that means a lot.
I know, I feel like I've blown my cover, honestly, in this podcast.
Cut it.
It really does mean a lot when I look back and think about everything that everyone has said. It really does keep me going.
And it means a lot, like, when you think about it. But, like, I know what you mean where, like, people will tell me, like, Jack, that's great, like, but when you've heard it so much, when you've gotten the same affirmation so much, it does numb down. And I try to remember, a practice I've gotten into and I've stopped is a gratefulness journal where you just write down, or a gratitude journal where you just write down everything you're grateful for and really kind of meditate on that.
How did that feel when you were doing it? Did it help?
100%.
Like right off the bat, the first time you did it, you were like, or did it take like?
Took a little bit, but it happened pretty fast. And I've definitely kept that practice of gratitude. I mean, like, I called this the Grateful Podcast because it's something I really, really take seriously. Like, I think through conscious awareness and conscious practice, we can come back to feeling less numb about things. Almost like a newborn baby. Like, imagine you were you right now with like a newborn baby's eyes and feelings, and you had all that. Like, think about how magical.
Like how it felt the first time somebody told me they liked my voice.
Exactly.
Like that.
And it's still the same action. It's just like over repetition. It's become numb to you, but it's the same person. So I think like I try to think about that in my life too, where I don't get people like coming up to me and like saying that my music touched them so much, but I have certain moments and I try to like really reflect on that, like before I go to bed, like meditate on the fact that, man, like that's so special and I want to feel that. And try to become more present in the moment so that I can feel things as like I would have felt them if it was the first time.
Sure, that's great. Yeah, I just gotta find the method that kind of cleanses the palate, like you were saying. And meditation would probably work, or just practicing gratitude, which I don't really do. And I guess I think about it sometimes, but making a conscious effort to be grateful for, I don't know, my upbringing and my fans and the fact that I can even do this in this country. That's definitely food for thought.
Yeah. It's all pretty cool. I mean, like, I don't know. I think.
Why'd you stop then?
That's a good question. Like, that genuinely, I think that we let things take over.
Right,
Like,
just
and
day-to-day activities.
it's pretty ironic because I was like talking about the gratefulness as like a way to stop numbing things, but I think even that got numbed after a period of time,
Right.
which is pretty crazy to think about. But
I mean, life is crazy, man. It's hard to keep track of all your priorities all the time.
exactly,
I mean, I feel like everyone's always trying to figure it out, and you never really get to a point where you're like. I mean, hopefully you get to a point where you're like in a good routine, but I feel like you know you're doing it right if you're always working towards being better. So
yeah. I mean, we have so many. I also think that like we have so many things we need to balance, and like you can't be great. You can't do everything. Like you have to make sacrifices if you want to succeed at one thing.
right.
So, like for you, your music is your main thing. You're not trying. I think it's a great thing that like you didn't try to go to college this year and do the music the way you're doing it.
Right.
Because you would have had worse grades than you would have if you weren't doing music, and your music would be worse.
Sure.
But like you're able to focus you made the sacrifice and you made the decision to focus on your music, and it makes that so much better.
Yeah, that's a comforting way to think about it, and I guess that reminds me of when people tell me to like get a backup plan. I hear that a lot. I used to hear that a lot. Still do sometimes, or like I get cards that say like I don't know whatever the cards were, but then it's like music will always be there. I'm like that was
That a little backhanded a little bit.
What I learned from one of my mentors, his name is Sam Robbins, and he's a singer-songwriter from Portsmouth. He said that like if you have a backup plan, you're gonna be more likely to fall back on it. So
facts.
If you get rid of that, then you have to do it. And I don't know, as much as I hate being trapped, I would rather be trapped doing this, which fills me so much joy than doing something empty. I guess.
Yeah. I think about that a lot too, where it's like I want to have a backup plan in case, but then I don't want there to be an in case. And the best way for there not to be an in case is by not having a backup plan and focusing all on the priority.
I feel like you got to be taking like a really, really risky choice if you think that like you genuinely need a backup plan for like your safety. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you have to make money somehow, and if you don't get this job, then you're gonna. I don't know. I think backup plans are good in some cases. Basically, what I'm saying.
But it brings us back full circle to where we were at the beginning, where it was like our upbringings.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you were doing this, but you didn't have like your parents to fall back on, and like you were just out in the world and you had to pay for an apartment and groceries and all of that,
right?
A backup plan would probably be more like essential, I guess.
Right, and that's I do forget a lot about. I don't know. Sometimes when I'm talking to my friends, and I'm like, "Why aren't you just chasing your dreams like I am?" And I realize that like the fact that I can say that and think that and not question it really shows how fortunate I am.
Yeah.
But I think everyone can get there, right? It's just a matter of how long and rocky your road is, you know.
Yeah. So what do you say to people out there listening that want to like that have a dream or don't have a dream yet and want to find it, and they want to live a life that really fulfills them?
Right. So I think for the people who don't know what they want to do, I know some people in my life who get a little existential because they're like, you seem like you know what you want to do, and I don't even know what I want to do. And I think it's important to remember that like no one's born knowing what they want to do, and everyone kind of has a different timeline, and that you'll find the thing eventually that makes you lose track of time, you know, or brings you into that flow state. And you just have to keep putting yourself in those situations where you got to keep trying things, I guess. And I mean, you're not going to run into a new passion just sitting in your bedroom doing nothing, right? You have to be out trying stuff. I don't know. I don't know if I fully answered the question. Is there a part I didn't answer yet?
I made it hard on you. I kind of did 2 questions. You got one part of it.
Okay.
The other part is, and then what do you say to the people that are like afraid and they want to go do it, but they're afraid to make that step, or they're afraid to they put themselves out there?
Well, I think just look at the path you're on now, and is that leading you to something that's gonna feel fulfilling? And I guess if you were gonna die tomorrow, are you gonna be happy with like what you're doing? Or that's really kind of morbid to think about, but are you gonna? It's kind of like the YOLO thing again, but just remembering that like this is your one life, and wouldn't you rather do something that brings you so much joy? But I don't know. It's really hard to escape that fear of making that first leap, and I'm trying to remember kind of how I did it, and I think it was more of a gradual thing, just testing the waters, and then I don't know. I guess it's a tough question. It's just the path is so different for many people. I think just keep reminding yourself why you want to do it and what you want to do, and like imagine your life if it all works out. Just best case scenario. Maybe that's naive, but
No manifestation.
keep following the breadcrumbs. Is what I always hear.
I like that.
Yeah. Like that was a lot of word vomit just now, but it's all right.
I read a quote today. It was by Chris Williamson, one of my podcast idols, and he said, the second scariest thing is leaving everything to chase your dreams, and the scariest thing is not knowing what could have happened if you left everything to chase your dreams.
100%. That's what it always comes down to, right? I never want to leave that on the table and not know. I mean, I think I watched some Instagram reels and one that kind of inspired me. Like, if you're in between 2 options, right? Just like having analysis paralysis isn't really helpful, because no matter what path you choose, you're always going to wonder like, what would it be like if I did the other thing, right? Yeah. So you might as well choose the more fun option. I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Right. That's what it's all about.
Life, you gotta have fun with life. We're gonna be here no matter what. You can either have fun or you can stress out.
It's not that deep.
I love that. All right, I think it's a good place to stop.
It's a wrap. Sweet. Yeah. Thanks for being my first podcast experience.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, dude. That was awesome.
Appreciate it.
A few technical difficulties. Hopefully it all worked out.
If you want to follow today's guest, I'm on Instagram at Harrison Goodell, or Spotify.
That was my last question. Yeah. Also, Spotify, Apple Music,
anywhere you listen to music, pretty much.
Also, he has some sick merch. I don't know if we can.
None of us out right. None of us out right now.
I got the good old
Goodell thing. Yeah, I'll have new merch coming out soon. So if you're in the Seacoast, New Hampshire area, keep an eye on me, because I'm gonna be playing a show probably the end of the winter. Something like that. That'll be big, and I'd love to see people there.
Go see him. You won't regret it. His voice, I didn't get to talk about it a lot. His voice is insane. When I went to go watch him, I genuinely thought that like his voice beforehand was like pre-produced, and then I realized in person that that's just his voice. So it's like, it's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, dude.